Welcome to the OpsQC Podcast, Episode 3, helping entrepreneurs, innovators, and small business owners scale to profitability. The goal of this podcast is to showcase real businesses, real owners, tell their stories, learn a little, and have some fun while doing it. I'm your host, Jared Warwick. Today joining us is Mary Holzkopf, founder and owner of Blessed Little Kitchen here in Huntley. Mary is an extremely generous, unique individual. Her faith is strong and guides her as she grows her business. I hope you enjoy hearing her story. Welcome to the OpsQC podcast today. Today I have Mary Holzkopf of Blessed Little Kitchen with me. Mary, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
To start out with, Mary, you want to just give the listeners a little bit of background on Blessed Little Kitchen, the state of your business and what you guys do?
Sure. So we are a full service bakery. The business started back in 2016 in October of that year. I started under the Home Bakers Act, which allows bakers to bake and sell goods out of their home as long as they fit certain criteria. So, for example, none of your goods could be perishable, meaning you couldn't sell refrigerated goods. It had to be all non-perishable items. There are set requirements on how much you can sell. So you could only sell a maximum of $1,000 a month out of your home. And then once you start going above that criteria, you're no longer allowed to work under the Home Bakers Act. So I think it was February or March of 2018, I switched over to a commercial kitchen because I had hit my max of what I was legally allowed to do out of my home. So I worked in a shared kitchen, and what that is you rent time and you rent storage space. And then you have a shared calendar and you book time into that kitchen. And I started producing from there. And then in October of 2019, we opened our retail location, which is where we currently are. We're at 10436 North Route 47 in Huntley. So we just celebrated our 1-year anniversary of that store being open, and that is where we currently are.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
So how many employees do you have at this location?
We have 11 right now.
Okay, and are you the only owner or do you have partners?
No, I'm the sole owner of the business.
Okay, very good. And if you look at all the things you offer in the bakery, is there any specific thing that you're known for from the baked goods?
Yeah, we are most known for our specialty cookies and our cinnamon rolls. So our specialty cookies we have about probably 90-ish different styles of cookie right now. All of the cookies, actually everything that we produce, are recipes that I've created myself or that my team members have created. So the special thing about us is if you find something you like, you can only get it from us. You'll see us do a lot of traditional things, but with a flair. So people will say, oh, I've never quite tasted it like that before. And that's what makes us stand out from other places.
Very unique, very unique. That Cottage Act is an interesting act. I was just talking to somebody the other day looking at starting a coffee company. And originally they had, dreams of grandeur. But if you operate under the Cottage Act, you can kind of figure out a lot about your business during that time while you're operating, correct?
Yeah, and the Cottage Act is actually different than the Home Bakers Act.
Okay.
A Cottage Act is for if you're selling at farmers markets, and that one has different requirements. I didn't bake under that act because I didn't sell at farmers markets, but I think they have less restrictions. So their sales, I think they're allowed to do about 35 grand a year in sales, as opposed to Home Bakers Act is 1,000 a month, which is 12 grand a year. So it's similar, but it's a little different. Even the way you label products is a little bit different under that act.
Interesting. Well, thank you for clarifying that. I didn't realize that those were two distinctly different acts. So what was the main driver for you to start this business? I mean, was there some specific event that caused you to get involved in this?
Not really. I've always wanted to open a bakery. I've always said I was going to do it, and that was going to be my retirement project. So when I retired, I was a social worker for dual diagnoses individuals who were also wards of the state. So I worked with DD, which is developmental delay, and MI, which is mental illness. And I basically was their advocate. I would represent them, and I worked in a group home, and I just made sure that they were safe and healthy and that they got the appointments they needed, and I represented them in court. That's a huge passion of mine. And then one of my children happens to also have special needs. He's on the spectrum and he has mental illness and a variety of other needs. And I always knew that I wanted to create a world for him that he'd always be able to fit in, because the way that America is set up, it doesn't necessarily allow unique individuals to feel at home there.
Sure.
Meaning like that he probably wouldn't be able to get a job in your traditional way. And so that was sort of a driving force for me to do it prior to retirement, is I wanted to set my children up. And regardless, I have 5 children. So regardless of which child wanted to join the business, I wanted them to all know that they'd have a place and that there'd be somewhere, even if the world said, no, you're not good enough, or no, we don't see your value, that they knew that they'd have a place where they are good enough and they do have value.
That's definitely something that's very personal to you then, and it definitely is a strong why, which is one of the main things everybody who starts a business really needs to have to be successful. So that's awesome. I definitely compliment you on that.
Thank you.
Did you have any help when you formed the company itself, or did you just do this yourself, basically learning as you went?
It was a little bit of both. My husband is very business minded and I am not. I'm very emotion driven and he's very logical. So we balance each other really well. And so he gave me things that, okay, first you need to hit X amount of dollars in sales. Then you need to come up with a business plan. You need to figure out what your P&L is. So he would teach me and tell me these things. And then I would go and do it. I also worked with this lovely individual at the McHenry County College. She actually helped me create a business plan because I didn't even know what one of those was. So she worked with me for many months, and she was very encouraging, but in a realistic way. So a lot of times I thought I was farther along than I was, and she would kindly remind me that no, the world of business is a little bit more grand than that, and you're not exactly as far as you think you are, but in a very encouraging way, where she never deflated my dreams. She just gave me that realistic spin I needed to continue to push forward. So that really, really helped me. I had numerous locations that fell through. Realistically, I should have opened up shop at least a year before I did. I'm very faith-based, and I can look back now and see that that just wouldn't have worked. Had I opened up a year before, I was not ready to do that. And because I'm so faith-based, I really believe that God was just doing it, in his time. Like the right place will fall into place when it's the right time and the right spot. And it did.
Awesome. Absolutely. That group, I think, if they're the ones in McHenry County, is it Small Business Development Center, SBDC?
Yes.
That you went through?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I reached out to them early on when I started my business as well. They are a wealth of information, and you're right. They do help you kind of structure things in a formal manner, which is very helpful. So, how was your business originally received? Like when you first kicked it off, you started producing these goods. How did the people receive it? Was it the reaction you were thinking?
When I first started out of my house and even in the commercial kitchen, very well received, much, much more well received than I would have ever thought. I will always remember the first customer, her name was Allison, that I had that was in no way, shape, or form related to me or knew me in any way. She was a complete stranger, and it's that first outside source. And now she's a friend of mine, and I've done all her kids' parties. I did her baby shower. And then to see, throughout the years that I get to do all these cakes for her kids and for all her life events. So yeah, it was really, really well received. I did a lot of fairs, like craft fairs and markets, just to get my name out there. And even the retail location was pretty well received. We still do get more dislike than I would enjoy, just based off the fact that I'm very out there with my faith and I'm very open, and I have crosses in the T's of my kitchen. I'm sorry, in the word little of my business name is Blessed Little Kitchen. So the T's have crosses. But you know what? Most of the people are behind the scenes hate. So they'll shoot me nasty emails or nasty messages, but not so much face to face anymore. Sometimes you do, but yeah. Other than that, that'd be the only thing I'd say is not well received. That and the fact that people want bread, and we don't bake bread. We are a sweet bakery, so we don't do breads. So that those two factors are the only negativity that we've gotten.
That's awesome. You have a customer for life. Your first customer is still a customer today. I think that speaks to the quality of work that you guys produce and the goods that you produce. That's awesome. And as far as the faith base, I definitely applaud you for being who you are, right? And definitely standing your ground. Just we shouldn't be ashamed. This is what created this business. This is what created this atmosphere and environment. So definitely embrace that and stay strong with that. I applaud you on that.
Thank you.
You mentioned briefly you did create a business plan prior to jumping in with the help of the SBDC and like that. Do you ever reflect back on that? And is there anything you look at and you're like, whoa, that was out there?
Yeah. So a lot of the business plan was numbers,
Mhm.
which is not my thing. I'm not a numbers person. So obviously you have to make these projections. And it even back then made me laugh because I'd always say, how on earth am I supposed to project? I've never owned a business before. We've never had retail. How could you possibly expect me to project my sales?
Sure.
And so I look at my projections and it's really, they were very, very off. I mean, shamefully off, but you don't know. So I think, I look at it as when I graduated college and I had my psych
Mhm.
degree and my sociology degree, and you think you know everything, right? You've
Right.
got this diploma in hand and you're ready to go. And then you get into your first job and you learn more in the first week of your first job than you did sitting in all
Yep.
those courses. That's
Absolutely.
how I felt with the business, is
Sure.
that all the business plan did help me to really set myself up in terms of thinking things through and not
Mhm.
doing anything rash. But in reality, I was very, very off.
It's not uncommon. People's first business plan they do it's a swag, right? It's your best guess at the time. You don't have a crystal ball. There's a lot of other factors that come into play, but it does show the thought process that you've really kind of walked through the detail and you've stepped through it. It's interesting. One of my friends who has a bunch of gyms in Boise, he was my first podcast. His first business was a formal business plan, and as he went, right, it became more fluid, and to the point where he's like, he'll just do a business deal because he knows it's good now. So it's
Yeah.
the first one you got to take them and do the due diligence for sure. So moving on, talk about a little bit about startup funding. When you look at your amount of capital you needed to start up, I'm not going to ask you how much you needed, but did you actually finance your startup or was it out of pocket? If it wasn't out of pocket, you did finance. Who did you reach out to? Was it like an SBA type loan or some other loan?
Yeah, so SBA was not something that would work for me.
Mhm.
I can't recall why. I don't know if that we weren't approved or the interest rate. There was something where my husband had said that's not going to work for you. He's the business minded man, so I
Sure.
trust him when he says things. I had saved from day one. I had opened up a separate account for the bakery. So from day one, back in 2016, any profits that we received were in a separate account, and the end goal
Sure.
was always to open a bakery. So I think that's really, really important because you have to take short-term hits to make long-term gains sometimes.
Mhm.
And so I know it was frustrating a lot of the times for my husband because he's like, you are working your butt off and we are seeing none of this,
Mhm.
but it was for a purpose.
Right.
So we were able to save up a chunk of money, not a huge amount, but a chunk from that.
Mhm.
And then my husband actually took out a personal loan and
Okay.
funded it through him.
Nice. That's awesome. You could do it through organic growth, and it does take definitely discipline to do that. So definitely, that's a great way to grow because you're not worried about the debt that's off to the side. Even the personal loan, it's probably not as much as you originally thought you had to finance to get there. So that's
Oh
all.
no, it was a great deal more
It was
actually.
actually okay.
Yes, it was a huge amount of money that is I think that's something that is important for small business owners to realize too, is that even if it looks like you're making so much money,
Hmm.
you're paying off all of these loans to start up. And
Sure.
so most small businesses are in the red for 2 years before they even see a profit.
Mhm.
Now we survive on my husband's income. This
Sure.
bakery is really my dream and passion that my husband supports me with, and
Right.
it doesn't support our family financially. He
Right.
supports our family financially. The
Okay.
bakery from the start has always been something that from day one, I said the end goal is to get to the point where we're donating more profits than we're keeping.
Hmm.
But in order to get to that point, you have to pay off all your loans and all those other things.
Right.
So we're really a charity minded business. And I don't know how, but I was able to hire people that are very like minded to me Everyone that I work with, I swear I have the best staff in the world. They're very charity minded. They're very giving. I mean, even my high school kids, they'll punch out and then work another 3 hours just so that they don't have to get paid. I mean,
That's interesting.
I have never, I can't even say enough good things about my staff, that we call each other family, because we are now. We work together so much and we all love each other. If we're not working together, we're messaging each other after work. I mean, it's like one big family.
That's awesome. You built that atmosphere. Yeah, you and I talked before the podcast a little bit. You guys have like a unique situation where you're not exactly, you're not a 401c formally, right? But you basically take and donate a large portion of your profits. So it's really almost like a not for profit, correct?
It is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. So I'm real prayer based,
Mhm.
and I get things that I call God whispers. Some people say it's intuition. I mean, what I call it is a God whisper, and it's when you pray on something and you get the sensation that you have to do it.
Mhm.
And so every month, 100% of all tips are donated to whatever organization was chosen for that month.
Mhm.
And that can range. Typically, it's at least $500, but like this last month, we were able to donate $1,000. If I'm able to, I like to double whatever has come in through the tips. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. That's one of my 2021 goals, is to be able to double all of that. I'm really passionate about helping our local food pantry. I just feel like if you're hungry, you cannot focus. You can't have a full mind at work, in school, anything. And
Mhm.
we need to be able to feed our own. So we did a huge fundraiser this past year with D&D Comfort, which is a heating and air company. And we were able to raise darn near $10,000 for our Grafton food pantry. And then I don't even know how much food, but it was a very large quantity of food. I want to say something like 8,000 pieces of food or something like that for them.
That's impressive. That is impressive. And I applaud you. That's one of the questions I always ask my guests is about giving back to the community. And I think the way you're doing it far exceeds, a lot of people's expectations. So definitely thank you for doing that. Looking at pricing models, when you first came up with, how did you come up with that? Was it based on visiting other bakeries, seeing what they were charging, or how did you come up with pricing for your products that would be representative?
So that is how I did it at first. My poor husband, God bless his soul, he went to every bakery within like a 50-mile radius of our house. I mean, we'd be on a date and I'd see one and I'd say, pull in. And I go and talk to the owner and say, hi, my name's Mary and I want to open a bakery. These people probably thought I was nuts, but through that, I actually made some friends that own
Sure.
bakeries too. And it's nice to be able to shoot off business to each other if we're
Mhm.
booked for something. But I would look at their prices, but I quickly realized that quality, you can't tell quality from a price. And
Right.
so some people have much higher prices, some people have much lower prices, but in the end, nobody knows what you're paying for your cost of good but you. So once again, my husband actually helped me with that. He showed me, okay, this is where your margins should be in order for you to be successful. So
Sure.
this is what you have to price yourself at in order to be successful. And I feel like we're middle of the range, maybe a little bit higher end, but we also only use 100% pure products. We use vanilla bean, like literally scraped from the vanilla bean pod, and one
Mm.
vanilla bean pod can run upwards of $7. So the quality of our goods is far superior to a lot of other places, and so that is why our markup might be look a little bit higher, but in reality, that doesn't mean that your profits are more.
Sure. That's awesome. Reminds me of my experience when I traveled to Mexico. My wife asked me to get like authentic, like vanilla from when I was there.
Yes.
I brought it back with me. So,
Yeah.
um, excellent. At what point did you really feel you hit the growth, cycle in your business? Was there a period of time, like, was it right from the start you felt like it was going up, or was it
Yeah.
kind of like gradual?
No, it was pretty much right from the start. I mean, I look back and it's incredible because I know nothing about business. I know I shouldn't say that as a businesswoman, or the owner of a business, but I really don't. I rely heavily on those around me. I'm very trusting. So I just hope and pray and trust that the people that are around me want what's best for the business and for my family. And
Sure.
so far they have, and they've helped me immensely. My husband's fantastic. He helps me immensely. I have two different accountants and both of them help me immensely. So I do the baking and I rely heavily on them to help me with the back end of things. And with the exception of COVID darn near killing us, we've seen, great growth.
Awesome. Very cool. So your team, you talk about the strong team, and a lot of entrepreneurs, small business owners, they always talk, they have a great team, strong team. How did you form that team? What tools do you use to bring people in? Or is it just kind of, taking on a life of its own? It's just kind of happened organically.
Well, for my very starting team, I started with just hiring. She's now my very best friend in the world. Her name is Anne. She worked with me at the commercial kitchen,
Okay.
and we sat down. She wasn't even applying for a job. A friend of a friend said, "You've got to meet my friend Anne. I think she'd be great." And we sat down to have coffee for this mock interview. I don't really interview people, so it was this just getting to know you session. And that what should have been a half-hour session took 3 hours, and we were making plans to go out to dinner. So she instantly, I just knew. She's my soul sister. I just knew. So it started with her. And then I was a few days from opening, and I had someone walk in with a resume and say, like, "Hey, are you hiring?" And I wasn't, but something about her said to say yes. So I did. I said yes and didn't really even look at her resume. And then I had what I call those God whispers. I had a customer that every time she'd come to pick up at the house, something was saying, "You need to ask her if she wants a job." And I was like, "Be quiet. That's ridiculous. That's so ridiculous. I'm not asking this woman that I don't know." And finally, it was just so strong that I messaged her and said, "Hey, this sounds crazy, but do you want to go get coffee and maybe
Sure.
take a job?" And it was always her dream to work in a bakery. How funny is that? So it was her lifelong dream to work in a bakery. She is now also my very best friend. And it's been like that. The only person I hired from an actual real job interview, her name's Jamie.
Mhm.
She was the last lot of interviews. And it was, again, I had prayed before the interview. I said, "God, please let someone walk through the door that needs us just as much as we need them."
Mhm.
And she walked in, and within 2 minutes, she had said something that let me know. I mean, it was like literally the answer to my prayer. And Angie knew. So Angie's kicking me under the table, like, "Don't hire her right away, Mary, act professional." So
Sure.
it really, I just feel like God puts these people in your life, and you just have to listen to it and like really feel it and figure out what he's trying to say to you.
Sure.
So now we're a team of 11, and we're probably going to be hiring at least one more in the near future. And
Mhm.
that's that.
Wow. So your first two hires kind of through that networking circle. Was there a certain person who connected you? I mean, obviously that networking is one of the best ways to connect people of like-minded passions and things like that. So I always kind of look at that. That's like kind of like the standard I always look at. So was there someone who helped connect you guys, Anne and you guys?
It was the director of my daughter's preschool,
Okay.
who I also happened to be the Cub Scout leader for her son when he
Sure.
was in Cub Scouts. So I'm very, very connected to my community, and I'm a very social person. So I like to go places and know people and talk to people. And it was just one day I was talking, her name's Susan. I was talking to Susan, and she said, "I really feel like you and Anne should meet. I feel like you guys would really mesh well together." And she was right.
Nice. That's awesome. Great way of hiring and networking. So, moving on here to the biggest challenge that you experienced. So, when you started your business, what was the biggest obstacle you encountered, and how did you overcome that?
Definitely during the build out phase of the retail location. We had some issues with contractors, and it was huge issues. Issues that, like, one guy walked off, he had quoted me 7 grand.
Mhm.
He walked off, and then the next lowest quote came in at 30 grand. And so we had to make up this $23,000 deficit. Now, luckily, that was for an electrician. I was able to find one that came in much closer to the 7 grand point, but he
Mhm.
did me a huge favor. Their name is Delaware Electric. I will praise them all day long. They really came in. I explained the situation, what had happened to them.
Sure.
And if it wasn't for them, and then my plumber, which was Hanson Heating and Plumbing, they stepped in when my mechanical engineer screwed me. So
Oh,
my
really?
plumber wound up doing an insane amount of work for me that he shouldn't have had to do. He just stepped in and was like, we're going to do it, Mary, let's go. And my electrician stepped in and I mean, really took a lot less money than he could have gotten from me.
Sure.
And honestly, like my plumber waited weeks after I opened to even collect his final payment because he knew I didn't have the money. So
Awesome.
we were so close to not being able to finish the project because we were at zero when we opened.
Sure.
And it was the grace of the contractors that I had built these relationships with that I will forever praise their businesses, because they could have very easily just said, nope, you don't have money, I'm done. And they didn't. They waited till I could afford it and they did the work and they took their payment when they could. And yeah.
That's awesome. I will make sure that I include links to both Hanson Heating and Plumbing and Delaware Electric at the end of the podcast.
Thank
So
you. Thank you.
Resources like that are rare, so you need to have good people like that. With the whole COVID situation over 2020, how have you guys fared through the whole COVID economy? What hardships have you seen? What's the impact to your business?
When it first happened, it was pretty devastating. We were in a very unique situation where I had been a legal business. I had paid my taxes. I'm very big on you should do things legally. So I am all for people that want to start businesses out of their homes, but please do it legally, because right now what we're seeing is a lot of in-home bakers pop up. They don't pay taxes. They can undercut prices severely, and we can't keep up with that because we do pay taxes and we have overhead. So I totally lost my train of thought.
Relative to the COVID economy.
Oh, with the COVID. So we took a huge hit when COVID first started. We shut down before we were mandated to shut down because I took the stance of I could not live with myself if I got someone ill, regardless of if it was an accident or not. I couldn't live with myself. We have contracts with Del Webb, which is the older population. I do decorating classes with them every 6-ish weeks. And I know I do a ton of parties for little kids, pregnant moms, all the people that are in these compromised ages.
Sure.
That it's dangerous for them. And so we had a meeting before anything, and I had told my staff, we're shutting down for 2 weeks. We have to. That was back in March, and we all thought this was going to go away in 2 weeks. So we shut down, and then little did we know our doors would stay locked for months. We did do delivery service, which was a huge challenge. We had never been set up for a delivery service ever. That's just not something we offered. So it was me and Angie and my mom, and I was doing the baking, Angie was doing the packing, and my mom was delivering with my husband. And it was just crazy. But we had to stay afloat. And it took months and months and months before we were able to actually open up the doors for people to come inside again. And we actually changed our establishment to no seating at all. So we used to have an occupancy of 32, and now we have 0. No one can sit inside. A huge part of my business plan and my business in general, we do birthday parties for kids. So we do decorating classes. I do decorating classes for really for anyone. But a lot of birthday parties. That was our Saturdays were from open to close birthday parties. We can't do those anymore. So that was a huge portion of our sales just out the window.
Sure.
So we had to just reconfigure how we did things. We went from doing huge things like 4-tiered wedding cakes to little tiny 6-inch cakes where only the bride and groom are going to cut them. So we went from really doing parties. I would say, an average party, your sale ticket's going to be right around the $300 mark to tickets that are around $30 to $50.
Wow.
And so it was just trying to get new customers in. Everything is now individually packaged so that there's no chance of any type of contamination anywhere. It's the safest we can possibly be. And not doing anything large anymore. It's really just a whole bunch of miniature stuff. But luckily we started picking up once our doors reopened. Our customers are so loyal. I mean, honestly, we should have gone under. By all rights, we should have gone under, and they kept us afloat. So I really owe it to them. They come back week after week. We have our return customer base is insane. So my husband says and we know our customers by name. They're like family to us too. And I think it's just that atmosphere of they feel invested in us just as much as we are invested in them, because we've all been a part of each other's lives and they've helped me grow this business.
That's an excellent point with customer retention. I mean, loyal customers, repeat customers coming back, helping you survive through an economy like this. That's an incredible story. When you talk about switching gears to the delivery service, was there a change to how you were taking orders? Do you guys still take orders just over the phone? Did you do anything digital? Did you have to retool your business in that way?
100%. We went to digital, which again, my husband helped me with. We had to do it all through an ordering website.
Mhm.
That's not something we've ever done before. Our orders are almost always custom. So we went from a custom based ordering to here's a list of what we have, go ahead and choose it, and then we're going to deliver it to you.
Okay.
So that was very different for us. And now, honestly, we don't do delivery right now anymore. We may need to move back that way because January is always a slow month. The beginning of the year is always slower compared to the end of the year.
Yep.
But I just don't have the manpower to be able to get the goods out there and do the deliveries and man the front of my store.
Yeah, that's a lot. It sounds like you guys are putting in a lot of hours, like you said, even like the Saturdays and stuff. So I definitely it takes a certain level of energy to do that. So how do you guys keep your energy up to do that? Is there anything specific you rely on? Like, are you big on like a meditation or getting a certain amount of exercise, things of that nature? Or
No, we just really enjoy each other. I mean, it's like if you walk in, you're going to hear somebody laughing somewhere. We are best friends. And so when you're working with your best friends, it's really easy to work long hours because you're working beside the people you want to be with. So yeah, it's stressful. Yeah, sometimes we snap at each other, sometimes we bicker, but it's like one family. So we keep each other's energy up really. And the fact that my staff they're just as invested in the business as I am. They want to see it succeed time and time again. They work long hours. They stay late. They come early. They do all the things that even my teenagers, they're so not typical of your normal staff. I have the best staff. And then we do things like every Friday, we do lunch bunch. So regardless of how busy we are, we cater in lunch to support another local business. We alternate who we cater through, and we sit down together and we have family lunch. A lot of times during the week, someone else will home make a lunch and they'll bring it in and we just sit and we eat together and we laugh together. And
sure.
Sorry, my kids are all coming in the room now.
It's okay. That's awesome. Because actually this morning I was on a network group where we were talking about the power of positivity. We were talking about the G4s, what you're grateful for. Definitely making sure you laugh, have a good time, because those all do impact energy levels of everybody who's there. So it sounds like you've created a good work environment with those people that everybody can enjoy themselves. So that's awesome.
Yeah, we're really lucky.
When you look at 2021, what's the outlook?
I have a positive outlook. I always have a positive outlook, though. I really just want to see us continue to grow. I'd love to pay off some of the debt that we have accrued. And I'd love to get back to doing parties of, sorry, I'm going to shut this door here.
Sure.
That saw is very loud in the background. Okay. I'd love to see us do more parties and more weddings. We did a 3-tier wedding cake and we were all dancing in the back because it's like finally a little bit of normalcy again. I'd really, really like to get more connected with the special needs department at the schools. I already am connected with them. We allow job shadowing, and I'm actually the only business that pays the job shadows, which I'm very proud of, because a huge thing in my past line of work that really upset me was that turn that volume off. Was that when my clients would get placed places, they weren't being paid the same wage as someone else. It was almost like they were saying, you're not good enough, you're not as good as, and that's not my jam. I don't like that. So this year, the big passion that I'm really trying to put into place is I want to create a separate line specifically for individuals who have disabilities. I want to hire individuals at regular rates and have them work and have something that is their own. And regardless of what they're capable of doing, there will be tasks for everybody. If you are really great at opening a piece of candy and that candy we're going to then add to a cookie, great, you can open the candy. If you're really great at measuring, great, you can measure. But everyone has unique abilities. And I think that our community could really stand to use a place where people who have these unique abilities know that they're welcome and they're going to be compensated adequately for that.
That's awesome. If somebody wanted to get involved in that or wanted to offer resources relative to that, Mary, how would they get a hold of you? Is it to call the bakery, or can they email you guys?
Email is the best way. We only have one phone line at the bakery, and if we're off, we're off. People are not manning that phone line. So email always comes directly to me. So you're going to contact me directly. And it's just the easiest way. You don't really ever lose an email, but it's easy to miss a phone call.
Sure. I will include your email at the end of the podcast then, so people can reach out to you with any resources to help you hit that goal for 2020.
Awesome. Thank you.
Definitely. So is there any marketing channels that you use that have been way more valuable than others? Like digital?
We really don't do marketing.
You don't hit people.
Caden, can you
She's
please?
hitting me.
Caden,
He's hitting
stop,
me.
please. We really don't do marketing. It's never been in my budget to market. I believe in organic growth way more than publicizing yourself. So I would much prefer someone come in, taste our product, say that is the best cookie I've ever had, tell their friends, give it to their friends, and grow that way, which is honestly how we have grown for the past 4 years. We did win this marketing competition, and a gentleman came in and did a video of us making cinnamon rolls. And I did, put that post out on Facebook. They call it boosting a post. So I spent $10 and I boosted this post on Facebook, and we did get some positivity from that. But marketing isn't really something that I might pour my finances into. There's just too many other things that need the money, and marketing kind of falls to the bottom of that barrel.
Understand. When you look at how you support local businesses and possibly even chambers, so you mentioned Grafton Food Pantry. That's a big one for you. Is there anybody else that you guys interact with that you want to point out on the podcast here?
Locally, there's not a huge amount of them. One is End a Child's Hunger. Okay. Joni Jett is the main resource for that. She also runs something called the Community Santa Project, which I'm very proud to be part of that program. We were able to aid over 200 families this year through that program in terms of buying them gifts to make sure that they're set up for Christmas. And then we just for the first time this year worked with Journey Hospice Care. Okay. They're great. And then we do like big organizations. So the last few that we did, one was the Ronald McDonald House, one was the Bipolar Foundation. We did a breast cancer foundation. One of my staff members' mothers is battling breast cancer, so we did that in honor of her. We just kind of see where people are at in their lives, and if something resonates with us, and then that's what we go with. Very good.
So someone listening to this podcast, if they're asking themselves, how can they help you? What would you say?
Shop small, support local. Honestly, that's what you can do. It is so easy to get on Amazon and purchase something. And trust me, I use Amazon all the time. I love me some Amazon. But I make an effort to go into all of our small local businesses and really make it a priority to put my funds towards those businesses. I also make it a priority to support businesses that are supporting others. So I always say small businesses that support other small businesses are my jam, because they are. We worked with Gebert's this year. We did some gifts for all of their staff members. I know very well that they could have used anybody, and they chose to use us because we're a small business. So things like that, I make sure that I then am supporting those businesses that make a point to support other small businesses.
Excellent. I agree with that 110%. Anybody in particular you want to give a shout out to that this business would not be possible if it wasn't for them?
Oh, so many people. if it wasn't for my husband, for sure, this never would have been possible.
Mhm.
My accountant, Stephanie, she's a member of my church who helped me get the whole thing. She set me up as an S Corp. She does my books for me. I'm a horrible bookkeeper and she keeps me all straight. All of my staff, if you take even one of my staff out of the equation, we would crumble. We really rely on each other so much because everyone is so, so important. I think it's easy to kind of think, oh, well, when you're working a job, all I'm doing is checking people out up front. It's not that important. Okay, but if you weren't checking people out up front, none of the stuff in the back being baked even matters because no
Right.
one's up there to take your money.
Sure.
And so it's just this circle of, I feel like it's almost like a tornado. Everyone that you come in contact with gets pulled in and they become part of this huge thing, which is the business. And you take somebody out of it and it's just not the same.
Sure. That's definitely agree with that. You get the right team together and each little piece, has a function. You pull a piece out and, it kind of degrades the whole. Well, we're at the end of the Q&A here, Mary. I appreciate your time. Is there any parting words of wisdom you want to give anybody who is looking to start a business or looking to start a bakery or something of that nature?
Yeah, I would say really surround yourself with people who can help you. Really listen to everybody's advice, even if you don't necessarily think it's the right advice for you. Even hearing it makes you process and think about what they're saying, just to even determine if it's the right step for you. And I pray on everything. And then once I feel that settling in my soul, I know that that's the choice to make. So whether prayer is your thing, meditation is your thing, talking to somebody is your thing, I really, really encourage everyone to really step outside themselves and get advice from those around you because they're going to be the ones that are supporting you and helping you through the whole thing.
Absolutely. And I thank you for your time today, Mary, and definitely wish you guys luck and best success in 2021.
Thank you so much.
We hope you've enjoyed this podcast. You can click on the links below for more information. These are all items that we discussed during the course of the podcast. If you want to recommend somebody to appear on the podcast as a guest, please email us at info@opsqc.com. If you're interested in sponsoring a podcast, please reach out to us at the same email. We'd love to have your support.